Sarah was experiencing the most terrifying moment of her life on what was supposed to be the happiest day. She had come to an Elvis concert, but the crowd was overwhelming her. When Elvis Presley saw the 8-year-old girl having a panic attack, he put down his microphone and did something that shocked everyone, because what he saw at the edge of the stage broke the rock and roll king's heart. The little girl was having such a severe panic attack that what Elvis did next would go down in music history. That night, a crowd of 50,000 had come to watch Elvis. Everyone was planning to have fun and create unforgettable memories. But for 8-year-old Sarah Williams, this night would hold a completely different meaning. The little girl would experience her greatest fear at this concert she had been dreaming about for months, and then encounter a miracle she never expected. Sarah Williams had been preparing for this day for weeks. Her mother Jennifer knew about her daughter's love for Elvis and wanted to make this special night perfect for her. Getting the tickets hadn't been easy. They were expensive and sold out very quickly. But Jennifer was ready to make any sacrifice for her daughter's happiness. Sarah's love for Elvis had begun 3 years earlier. She was only 5 years old then, and when her father heard Elvis's voice on the radio, he had stopped and listened carefully. "Who is this, Daddy?" she had asked. Her father smiled and said, "This is Elvis Presley, the king of music." From that moment on, Elvis was part of Sarah's life. The little girl would constantly play Elvis's records on the old record player at home. Hound Dog, Jailhouse Rock, Can't Help Falling in Love. Whatever song played, Sarah would dance. She would throw her mother's old shawl over her shoulders and try to move like Elvis. The neighbors would smile when they saw the little girl dancing by the window. Sarah's room was filled with Elvis posters. They had hung every Elvis photo her mother could find on the walls. Every morning when the little girl woke up, she would see Elvis's smiling face. This gave her strength. Even when going to school, she would hum Elvis's songs. Her classmates sometimes couldn't understand Sarah's love for Elvis. Most children liked modern songs, but Sarah wouldn't listen to anything but Elvis. Her teacher, Mrs. Johnson, found this situation very sweet. She often called Sarah Little Rock Star. On the day of the concert, Sarah wore her most beautiful dress. With her pink polka-dotted skirt and white blouse, she felt like a princess. She had braided her hair into 2 braids, and her mother had tied little ribbons at the ends. Sarah's excitement was so great that she couldn't even eat breakfast. All she could think about was seeing Elvis live. This dress was special. Her mother had bought it for Sarah's birthday, but the little girl had saved it for the Elvis concert. Elvis will see this dress, she had thought. Pink was her favorite color, and the polka dots seemed cheerful to her. When she looked in the mirror, she felt very beautiful. Sarah had also carefully chosen her shoes. She had shiny black patent leather shoes, not high-heeled but very stylish. She thought she could dance in these shoes. Maybe Elvis would call her on stage and they would dance together. Her dreams knew no bounds. The little girl had asked her mother for help combing her hair. They had made 2 braids and tied ribbons at the ends. The red ribbons matched beautifully with the pink dress. Sarah smiled every time she looked in the mirror. She wanted to look perfect today. Her mother Jennifer smiled when she saw Sarah's excitement. She knew about her little daughter's passion for music. Sarah had started dancing when she heard Elvis's voice when she was only 3 years old. Now at 8, she was his biggest fan. Jennifer was also excited because she would share this special moment with her daughter. Jennifer had been planning this concert for a long time. The tickets were very expensive and hard to find. She had been saving money for months. She was ready to make any sacrifice for Sarah's happiness. She had done everything she could for her little daughter to see Elvis. At breakfast, Sarah could only drink orange juice. Her stomach was upset from excitement. "Mom, do you think Elvis will see me?" she kept asking. Jennifer always answered, "Of course, dear. He will definitely see you." Actually, she thought it was impossible among thousands of people, but she didn't want to break her daughter's hope. When they arrived at the concert hall, Sarah's eyes widened. Seeing the massive building both excited and scared her a little. But when she thought that Elvis was inside, her fear disappeared. Her mother held her hand, and they walked toward the entrance together. Sarah became a little more excited with each step. The building was really huge. Sarah had never seen such a big place. Even from outside, she could hear the noise coming from inside. People were talking, laughing, and shouting with excitement. Sarah had never seen so many people in the same place before. There were long queues in front of the entrance. Everyone was trying to get inside at the same time. Sarah was surprised to see how long the queue was. "Mom, are all these people also coming to see Elvis?" she asked. Jennifer smiled and said, "Yes, dear, Elvis is very loved." While waiting in line, Sarah observed the people around her, elderly aunts and uncles, young girls, families. Everyone had come for Elvis. Some were wearing Elvis t-shirts, some had Elvis badges. Sarah wished she had such a t-shirt too. A group of young girls standing nearby were singing Elvis's songs. Sarah wanted to join them but was too shy. She just listened and sang along silently. When they started playing Love Me Tender, Sarah's face lit up. This was her favorite song. When they approached the hall doors, Sarah first realized the size of the crowd. Thousands of people were trying to enter through the same door. Everyone was talking, laughing, and screaming. The noise level was much higher than Sarah was used to. The little girl held her mother's hand tighter. There was a bit of congestion in front of the door. People were showing their tickets and going through security checks. Sarah became a little worried when she saw this chaos. Would she get lost among so many people? Her mother noticed her concern and held her hand tightly. "Don't worry, dear," said Jennifer. "I'm with you. I won't leave you." Sarah felt a little relieved by her mother's words, but the crowd around her still made her uneasy. They hadn't even gone inside yet, but there were already too many people. When they went inside, the situation got even worse. Sarah felt like she was lost in a sea of people surrounding her. Everyone was much taller than her, and the little girl could only see hips and backs. Breathing was becoming increasingly difficult. Even though her mother was holding her hand, Sarah was beginning to feel alone. The inside of the hall was much more crowded than Sarah had imagined. Seats rising to the ceiling, a huge stage, bright lights. Everything was magnificent, but also very scary. Sarah had never been in such a big place. She felt very small. In the corridors, people were rushing in every direction. Some were looking for their seats, some were buying food, and some were asking for the restrooms. In the middle of this chaos, Sarah was confused. She couldn't even understand which direction they were going. At one point, a big man passing by bumped into Sarah. The little girl staggered and held her mother's hand tighter. The man continued on his way without apologizing. Sarah was uncomfortable with this situation. At home, everyone paid attention to her, but here, no one saw her. While walking in the corridors, Sarah was constantly afraid of being stepped on. People were in a hurry, so they weren't looking around. The little girl began to take her steps more carefully. She was holding her mother's hand so tightly that her fingers hurt. The noise inside the concert hall was much more than what they heard from outside. People's conversations, footsteps, test sounds from the music system. Everything was mixed together, scratching Sarah's ears. As they moved toward the seating area, the crowd became even denser. People were pushing each other, trying to walk quickly. Sarah was afraid she would be separated from her mother's hand. Her heart was starting to beat fast. The adults around her didn't see her and acted as if they were going to step on her. "Mom, it's very crowded," Sarah whispered. Her voice came out shaky. Jennifer noticed her daughter's anxiety. "A little more patience, dear. We'll get to our seats," she said. But Jennifer also understood that the situation was harder than she had anticipated. While climbing the stairs, Sarah was out of breath. Not just from physical fatigue, but from stress. Being among so many people was very tiring for her. She just wanted to see Elvis, but she didn't know it would be this difficult. When they sat down, Sarah felt a little relieved. But when she looked around, she realized the situation wasn't that good. Everywhere was full of people. Front, back, right, left. There were people everywhere. The noise level was gradually increasing because everyone was talking excitedly. Sarah's head was starting to spin. Their seats were quite far from the stage. Sarah could see the stage, but it looked very small. Would she really be able to see Elvis when he came on stage? This thought saddened her. She had come all this way, been so excited, but might not be able to see Elvis properly. An elderly couple sitting next to them was constantly talking loudly. The woman was talking about Elvis's old concerts, and the man was adding his own comments. Sarah didn't want to listen to them, she just wanted silence, but it wasn't happening. The young people sitting behind them were constantly shouting. They were guessing which song Elvis would sing and talking loudly with each guess. Sarah turned to look at them, but they didn't even notice her. The hall's ventilation wasn't adequate either. With so many people in the same place, the air became stifling. Sarah's breathing was becoming difficult. The collar of her dress seemed to be choking her. She wanted to loosen it, but had to ask her mother for help. Before the concert started, the hall filled up even more. Late arrivals were walking in the corridors, looking for their seats. The noise level was much higher than Sarah could tolerate. The little girl wanted to cover her ears, but was afraid to let go of her mother's hand. Her mother was her only safe point. "Mom, it's very noisy," said Sarah. Her voice was barely audible. Lost in the noise, Jennifer could see her daughter's discomfort, but didn't know what she could do. They couldn't leave and find another place. Sarah looked around. Everyone seemed very happy. They were laughing, singing, dancing. Was she the only one uncomfortable? Maybe this was normal and she needed to get used to it, but this noise was very tiring for her. The little girl looked at her watch. There were still 10 minutes before the concert started. She had to endure this noise for 10 more minutes. Then Elvis would come out and everything would be fine. At least she hoped so. Her mother was beginning to notice Sarah's condition. "Are you okay, dear?" she asked. Sarah nodded, but she actually wasn't okay. The crowd was starting to overwhelm her. Being among so many people wasn't at all like she had imagined. She just wanted to see Elvis. But could she succeed among so many people? When the lights dimmed, the crowd went crazy. Everyone stood up and started screaming. Sarah tried to stand up too, but everyone around her was much taller. She couldn't see anything. There were only backs, arms, and screaming sounds. Breathing was becoming even more difficult. When the hall lights dimmed, the atmosphere completely changed. As if struck by lightning, everyone suddenly jumped to their feet. The people around Sarah moved so quickly that the little girl was bewildered by what was happening. Suddenly, she found herself among standing legs. The crowd's screaming was so loud that Sarah's ears started to hurt. These weren't the sounds she was used to. The music from the radio at home wasn't this loud. These screams seemed like they would burst her eardrums. Sarah tried to stand on her tiptoes, but still couldn't see anything. Even the thick hair of the woman standing in front of her blocked Sarah's view. The little girl could only see people's backs. This situation disappointed her greatly. Everyone around her had raised their hands and was keeping time. Sarah wanted to keep time too, but her arms were too short. Moreover, she was so squeezed that there was no room to move her arms. She felt very small and insignificant. When Elvis came on stage, the crowd's screaming rose to the ceiling. Sarah couldn't see at all. She tried to stand on her tiptoes, but still couldn't see anything. Everyone around her was jumping, dancing, waving their hands. Sarah was trapped in the middle of the crowd. Panic symptoms were beginning. "Mom, I can't see!" Sarah shouted, but her voice was lost in the crowd's noise. Jennifer tried to hear her daughter's voice, but it was impossible. The surrounding noise was so intense that it was hard to hear even the person standing next to you. Sarah pulled on her mother's arm. Jennifer looked down and saw her daughter's worried face. There was fear in Sarah's eyes. The little girl was breathing rapidly. Jennifer realized that the situation was starting to get serious. "Calm down, dear," said Jennifer. But Sarah couldn't hear her. The little girl was experiencing both the disappointment of not being able to see Elvis and the pressure from the crowd. This situation was too much for her. Sarah looked around. Everyone was happy, having fun. Was she the only one scared and feeling trapped? Was there something wrong with this situation? Why was she the only one feeling this way? Maybe she shouldn't have come here. The little girl's heart was beating so fast that she thought her chest would explode. She couldn't breathe. The people around her seemed too close. She felt like they were going to crush her. She started sweating. Her hands were shaking. She tried to hold her mother's hand tighter, but now she was scared too. "Mom, I want to get out of here," she whispered, but no one could hear her. The music was too loud. People were making too much noise. Sarah's voice was lost in the crowd's noise. Tears were starting to well up in her eyes. This wasn't at all like she had imagined. She really wanted to see Elvis, but this crowd scared her. Her mother was beginning to notice Sarah's condition. She saw that her daughter was out of breath and her hands were shaking. "Sarah, are you okay?" she asked. But Sarah couldn't answer. She didn't have the strength to speak. She just wanted to hug her mother, but she had to stand because if she sat down, she wouldn't be able to see anything. When Elvis started singing Heartbreak Hotel, the crowd went even crazier. Everyone started dancing. The people around Sarah were bumping into her, pushing her. The little girl was afraid she would lose her balance. She was starting to regret wanting to see Elvis. She just wanted to be at home, in her safe place. The panic attack was gradually intensifying. Sarah's body started shaking. When she breathed in and out, she made a kind of wheezing sound. Her eyes were filled with tears, but no one noticed. Everyone was focused on Elvis. There was no one to see the little girl's distress. Her mother now understood the seriousness of the situation. Sarah was having a panic attack. She tried to calm her down, but it was impossible in this crowd. "Sarah, breathe. Calm down," she said, but Sarah couldn't hear her. The little girl was completely under the control of panic. She wanted to hug her mother, but she had to stand. Elvis was singing "Don't Be Cruel" at that moment. The music was so loud that Sarah's ears started ringing. The crowd's screams seemed like they would pierce her eardrums. The little girl was now completely in fear. She didn't know what to do to get out of this situation. She just wanted to be with her mother. Just then, Elvis walked toward the edge of the stage. His eyes were scanning the crowd. He always tried to make eye contact with his fans. This was his style. But that night, his eye caught something completely different. In the middle of the crowd, while everyone else was dancing and having fun, a little girl was crying. Elvis's eyes focused on Sarah. He immediately understood the little girl's situation. Elvis, who had years of stage experience, knew the pressure that crowds could exert, but seeing such a young child having a panic attack deeply affected him. He knew what he had to do at that moment. While continuing to sing, Elvis didn't take his eyes off Sarah. He saw the little girl shaking, crying, trying to hug her mother. This sight broke his heart. Elvis always loved children and was careful to protect them. He needed to intervene in this situation. When "Don't Be Cruel" reached its final chorus, Elvis made a sudden decision. He silenced the microphone. The music continued, but Elvis stopped singing. While the 50,000-strong crowd was trying to understand what was happening, Elvis took the microphone and started speaking. "Wait, friends," Elvis said into the microphone. "We're stopping the song for a minute." The musicians were surprised, but when they saw Elvis's signal, they stopped the music. The hall suddenly fell silent. Everyone was trying to understand what was happening. Elvis never stopped a song during a concert. He never did such a thing. Elvis put down the microphone and walked toward the edge of the stage. His eyes were still focused on Sarah. "The little lady over there," he said loudly. "The little lady in the pink dress. Can you hear me?" Sarah raised her head. Elvis was talking to her. He had seen her among 50,000 people and was talking to her. The crowd started turning toward where Sarah was. Everyone started looking for the little girl. The people around Sarah started making room for her. Elvis's behavior had surprised everyone. Why was he stopping the song to talk to a child? "Come here, sweetheart," Elvis said from the edge of the stage. "Don't be afraid. No one will hurt you." Sarah's tears stopped. shocked. Elvis was talking to her. The real Elvis Presley was talking to her. But she couldn't move. She was very scared and her legs were shaking. Elvis understood the seriousness of the situation. The little girl was having a panic attack and wouldn't be able to come to the stage. Then Elvis made a second decision. He jumped from the edge of the stage. The 50,000 people were completely shocked by this move. Elvis never jumped from the stage. He never went down into the crowd. But that night was different. Elvis jumped from the stage and went down into the crowd. Security guards started running after him, but Elvis stopped them. "Stay calm," he said. "I'll handle this." At that moment, he had focused all his attention on Sarah. The little girl was still crying and shaking. Elvis started walking towards Sarah. The crowd was making way for him. Everyone was watching in amazement, silently. This was something never seen before. Elvis Presley was stopping his concert for a child, jumping from the stage and going to her. Nothing like this had ever happened in history. When Sarah saw Elvis coming toward her, she froze. Was this real or a dream? Was Elvis Presley really coming toward her? Tears were still flowing. But now, not from fear, but from amazement. This seemed impossible, but it was real. When Elvis reached Sarah, he knelt down. This way, he was at the same level as the little girl. He smiled and spoke in a soft voice. "Hello, sweetheart. I'm Elvis. What's your name?" Not a single word came out of Sarah's mouth. She was face to face with Elvis and couldn't speak. "Don't be afraid, beautiful," Elvis said in a calm voice. "I won't hurt you. I just want you to be okay. Is this crowd scaring you?" Sarah nodded. Elvis smiled understandingly. "I know, sweetheart. I sometimes get scared of crowds too. It's a normal thing." Elvis looked around. Thousands of people were watching them, but everyone was silent. They understood that this moment was magical. Elvis turned back to Sarah. "You know, you're wearing a very beautiful dress, and your hair is very beautiful. Your mother prepared you very nicely for today." Sarah's mother, Jennifer, came to them. There were tears in her eyes. Elvis's attention and respect toward her daughter had deeply affected her. "Thank you so much, Mr. Presley," she said. "Sarah is your biggest fan. She's been waiting for this night for weeks." Elvis smiled at Jennifer and then turned back to Sarah. "Really? Am I your fan?" Sarah nodded. "Which song of mine do you like the most?" Elvis asked. Sarah finally managed to speak. "Love Me Tender," she said in a barely audible voice. "Ah, that's one of my favorite songs too," said Elvis. "Do you know what we're going to do? You're going to come on stage with me and sit there. That way the crowd won't bother you. How does that sound?" Sarah couldn't believe it. Was Elvis inviting her on stage? Was this possible? She looked at her mother. Jennifer was smiling with tears in her eyes. "Go, dear," she said. "Go with Uncle Elvis." Elvis stood up and extended his hand to Sarah. "Come, sweetheart. Let's go on stage together. I'll carry you in my arms so you won't fall." Sarah tremblingly took Elvis's hand. This was like a real dream. Elvis took Sarah in his arms. The little girl was very light. Elvis held her tightly and started walking toward the stage. When the crowd saw this scene, they started applauding. Everyone was witnessing this beautiful moment. Sarah felt safe in Elvis's arms. When they got on stage, Elvis sat Sarah in a special chair at one corner of the stage. "This is your special place, Mad," he said. "From here you can see everything, and no one will bother you. I can see you from here too." Sarah sat in the chair. The view from here was magnificent. She could see thousands of people, but she was no longer trapped among them. She was safe. Elvis was standing next to her and protecting her. Her fear had completely disappeared. Elvis took the microphone and turned to the crowd. "Friends, I want to introduce you to Sarah. She's my special guest tonight. Sarah, can you wave to everyone?" Sarah shyly waved her hand. The crowd applauded her. "Sarah's favorite song of mine is Love Me Tender," said Elvis. "I'm going to sing this song for her, and if Sarah wants, she can sing along with me." Sarah's face lit up. She was going to sing with Elvis. When the music started, Elvis also extended the microphone to Sarah. "Let's sing together," he said. Sarah was hesitant at first, but then started singing. Her voice was shaky but beautiful. She was singing her favorite song with Elvis. This was the most beautiful moment of her life. When the song ended, The crowd gave a standing ovation. They were applauding both Elvis and Sarah. The little girl had never been so happy. While she had been having a panic attack, now she was being applauded on stage with Elvis. Elvis checked on Sarah throughout the concert. The little girl was now happy. She was listening to the music, watching Elvis, and sometimes singing along with him. The panic attack had completely passed. She was watching a magnificent concert in a place where she felt safe. At the end of the concert, Elvis came to Sarah. "You were a wonderful guest tonight," he said. "You made me very happy. I hope you were happy too." Sarah smiled with tears in her eyes. "Thank you so much, Uncle Elvis. This was the most beautiful night of my life." Elvis hugged Sarah. "You're a very brave girl, and you sing very beautifully. Never give up music, okay?" Sarah nodded. Elvis gave her a signed photograph. "This is for you," he said. "Look at this photo whenever you remember me."
Sarah came down from the stage in Elvis's arms. Her mother was waiting for her. There were tears of happiness in Jennifer's eyes. What her daughter had experienced tonight had made her very happy. Elvis had turned a moment of panic attack into the most beautiful moment of life. On the way home, Sarah talked about Elvis the whole way. "Mom, Elvis sang with me. He took me on stage. He's a very kind-hearted person. I was scared, but he came to me and took my fear away." Jennifer smiled as she listened to her daughter. After that night, Sarah's life changed. She was no longer afraid of crowds. The attention and love Elvis showed her had increased her self-confidence. Her love for music also multiplied. She started learning guitar and was constantly singing. Sarah's change affected not only herself, but everyone around her. At school, she was now more confident. She volunteered to come forward in class performances, preferring to sing. Her teachers had noticed this change and invited Sarah to the school choir. When the little girl started learning guitar, the first song she played was "Love Me Tender." Every note reminded her of Elvis. When her fingers touched the strings, she relived that night. The compassion and understanding Elvis showed her was hidden in every note of the music. When neighbors heard Sarah's guitar, they started coming to the windows to listen. The little girl's voice was getting more and more beautiful. The confidence she learned from Elvis was helping her in music too. She was no longer afraid of performing. Jennifer watched her daughters change with great happiness. She was surprised that Sarah had emerged so strong after the panic attack that night. Elvis's intervention had really changed Sarah's life. The day after the concert night, local newspapers made the incident headline news. The title, "Elvis Presley Saves Girl Having Panic Attack," was talked about throughout the city. Sarah's story was told on radio programs and featured in television news. Journalists started coming to the house to interview Sarah and Jennifer. The little girl was shy at first, but then enjoyed telling about Elvis's kindness. "Elvis is a real angel," she said in every interview. "He saved me." After this incident, Sarah was invited as a guest to a children's program on national television. There she sang "Love Me Tender" live on air. Her performance was so impressive that viewers gave her a standing ovation. The courage Elvis gave her was felt in every note. The news spread beyond the city's borders to the entire country. Elvis's behavior made him an even more beloved artist. People saw that he was not only a musician, but also a compassionate human being. Elvis's manager was very moved when he heard about this incident. Such stories were very valuable for the artist's image. But Elvis hadn't done this for his image. Sarah really needed help, and Elvis had helped. Years later, Sarah became a music teacher. She always told her students Elvis's story. "Sometimes we experience scary moments in life," she would say, "but there are always people around us who understand and protect us. Elvis taught me that." Sarah's students loved this story very much. Especially shy children with low self-confidence were inspired by Sarah's story. Their teacher had shown them that fear was a normal emotion but could be overcome. In the music classroom, Sarah kept Elvis's photo hanging. At the beginning of each lesson, she would look at that photo and smile,
telling her students, "A good heart always wins." This had become her life philosophy. Sarah's story appeared in newspapers, radio, and television. Elvis stopping his concert for a child and coming down from the stage was considered one of the most beautiful moments in music history. This incident showed that Elvis was not only an artist, but also a wonderful human being. As the years passed, Sarah's story became legendary. Elvis fans would tell this story to each other, emphasizing how beautiful Elvis's character was. This incident became part of Elvis's legacy.
When Sarah got married as an adult, she had her wedding dance to Love Me Tender. That song wasn't just a piece of music for her. It was the symbol of the moment that changed her life. While dancing, she remembered Elvis and tears flowed from her eyes. When she had her own children, Sarah also told them Elvis's story. "Did you know that your grandmother met Elvis?" she would say. Her children would listen to this story mesmerized. What happened that night proved that music is not just entertainment, but also a healing force. The mercy and understanding Elvis showed Sarah also touched the hearts of thousands of people. Everyone in the concert hall that night witnessed not just a music show, but one of the most beautiful examples of humanity. This story continues to be told even today. Elvis's kindness, Sarah's courage, and the healing power of music give people hope. It shows that sometimes the smallest act of kindness can completely change someone's life. If you were in such a situation, would you act like Elvis? Share what this story made you feel in the comments.